I'm Joanna. Basically, several hours after our son was born in the hospital, the paediatrician checked over Xavier and told us he was tongue-tied. We didn't know what that meant. We knew it was a metaphorical saying, but we hadn't heard of it being a literal thing. He told us to book an appointment with his office in the next couple of weeks to get it clipped. Otherwise, I would most likely give up breastfeeding. So my lactation consultant actually confirmed the diagnosis when she saw him, and we then worked on getting it clipped. But I couldn't get into the paediatrician for 3 weeks, and the lactation consultant said that just wasn't good enough. I would give up breastfeeding. So we finally, with the help of a Healthy Beginnings nurse, we got into a local physician, and she clipped it with scissors, and it was simple and fast, and immediately I had much better time breastfeeding. I was in such severe pain that I couldn't even feel the third-degree lacerations that I had from the birth because my nipples were that damaged. And he had screamed the whole first week of his life because he wasn't able to get enough milk. And it took a long time also for my milk to come in. So breastfeeding improved, but it still wasn't great. I still had problems with his latch being shallow, and for several weeks I suffered with thrush. So when he was a couple months old, I called my lactation consultant back in, and she had a look, and she said, yep, his latch is still shallow, you need to work on the latch, here's a few different positions, and yeah. So I was really frustrated. I didn't really know what more I could do. He was the fussy nurser. And just after that point, he also went on his first breast refusal. And he wouldn't take a bottle either, so the only way to get express breast milk into him was through syringe feeding, which he hated, so that was my husband's job. I got him back onto the breast by breastfeeding him at night and eventually back into the day. But then we also struggled with gas issues. So from about 2 months on, for months and months and months, every single night, from about 2 a.m. onwards, for several hours, he would scream and writhe around in pain as he passed gas. And I went on an elimination diet at this point, basically eating nothing, one that Dr. Sears had recommended, and nothing helped. And the only thing that would help him pass the wind was if I was semi-reclined, almost upright in bed, for hours on end, giving him firm pats on his back to help him pass the wind. This was extremely taxing on our family. We're Australians living in Canada with no family support. And this happened for months and months. And the paediatrician that I saw and the family physician just labelled him colicky, said that he perhaps had reflux, diagnosed reflux medication, and said we'd have to just wait. And around 4 to 6 months of age, he'd get better. His digestive system would mature and he'd get better. They ordered an x-ray. The x-ray came back clear, except that his stomach and his intestines were full of gas, which we knew. They also ordered an ultrasound. The ultrasound, once again, came back fine. And because I had an oversupply and an overactive letdown, he didn't really have to do too much to get milk, and he still gained weight. So he was the chubby baby. He went from 50th percentile birth weight up to the 98th percentile. So everyone was saying to me, well, look at him, he's doing great. Look, you know, he's put on weight, he doesn't lose weight, he's fine. Then at about 5 months, he went on his second breast refusal. And this was worse than the last time because he was older and he was even more fussy. I couldn't go out in public to breastfeed him, so I had to try and time outings in between nursing sessions because he wouldn't feed in public. And at home, it was very specific. There had to be specific conditions in order for him to breastfeed. So it was extremely frustrating. And around 6 months of age, things started to improve a little bit. And I thought, okay, this is what the doctors were talking about. But then at 7 months of age, he cut his 2 front teeth. And that's when I noticed pain again nursing. And I noticed him struggling with his latch. And it was then also that I had met a new friend, and she was a lactation educator, and she had a look at him, and she said, he's lip tied. And once you knew what you were looking for, you could see it was a thick, tight lip tie into his hard palate. So he'd been using his gums to hold the latch on before, and now that he had teeth, he couldn't use his gums anymore to hold that latch. And so that's why he was struggling. So I had this new information, but what to do about it? I couldn't find anyone that would look at a lip tie in a child this young and do anything about it. So the next few months we struggled. He wouldn't really eat solids. He would chew them but spit them out just like Elijah. He would choke a lot and gag a lot on food, and he couldn't take a sippy cup. At around 10 months of age is when I got to the point of desperation. The pain was so bad with his nursing that I was going to have to give up, and I didn't want to give up nursing. I wanted him to decide when he wanted to stop. But the pain was really bad. He was sucking in air every time he went to the breast. He was getting fussier at the breast again, and he was getting just as frustrated as I was getting. And around that time, I had been sent a blog from a friend, and it was about a lady in the US who had travelled across the continent to see Dr. Cutler. So I then went onto his website, read all of his articles, and I thought, this is it. And everything made sense. The reflux baby, the colicky baby, the gas issues, the clicking noises he made when he nursed, the shallow latch, the breast feeding refusals, everything, the repeated thrush, the flat nipple. It all just fell into place. And around that same time, I also heard about Leanne and her story, and I contacted her, and I was amazed to find that she was making travel plans to see Dr. Cotlow. So we made one last-ditched effort to find a dentist here that would do it, but we couldn't find anyone that was experienced in infants, and most said they would only look at it at about 3 or 4 years of age. And I knew that was too late, and so did Leanne. So we made the decision to fly, and yes, it was extremely costly, and all of our savings went, and we're still playing catch-up. But it was amazing. The difference, I knew then that that was the breastfeeding relationship that I was supposed to have with my child from the very beginning. Once, like Elijah, he asked to nurse. He had never asked to nurse until that point. The breastfeeding didn't hurt, it stopped hurting. The nipple wasn't as flat. He started eating solid foods that very day as well. We had lunch and he actually swallowed food and a large amount. And when we got home, he started drinking out of a sippy cup. So it was a totally amazing experience. And I remember crying on the way home to the airport in Albany, just thinking that this is amazing, and I just wish we had known about this earlier. So he had the anterior tie snipped, but he still had a thick posterior submucosal tie, which most often when they're getting clipped, that's not being recognised. Now Xavier is 19 months old and he's still breastfeeding, and I'm pregnant with our second child. I'm 19 weeks. And I'm really hoping that we can find a local solution here so that if this baby is tongue-tied and lip-tied, that we can have the resources here and help us. So now I'm going to hand it over to Kiel Teskey, who is going to share with you his family story.